Welcome to another episode of Transcending the Rabbit Hole. I'm Brandy Anderson, and I'm joined by my very good friends and co-host Annelise and Parker Bess. Today, we're welcoming back to the show our friend and astrologer, Johnny Barnett. Johnny's been studying and practicing astrology for more than 30 years. His approach to the birth chart is archetypal. Understanding the birth chart as a symbolic map, a blueprint of our inner life, our gifts, our challenges, and our soul's journey into wholeness. His work invites people to see themselves with greater clarity, compassion, and purpose. Johnny, welcome. It's a privilege to transcend this rabbit hole with you.
Thank you, Brandy. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Johnny, so good to have you back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm excited for
good
this
to see you.
conversation.
Yeah. I'm super excited. So I thought maybe we could just kick things off. I mean, a lot of people think of astrology as prediction or like personality typing. So maybe you could define astrology for us from that archetypal or symbolic perspective.
Yeah. So a little over 120 years ago, a fellow was born who moved astrology out of the realm of prediction and put it into the realm of self-actualization, self-realization, stepping into yourself, helping, allowing astrology to help you understand and become who you're meant to be. And so, um, of course, that fit right in with Jung's archetypes and individuation. It's almost they almost mirror each other, right? And so, and of course, he was a contemporary of Jung, born almost about the same time. So the archetypes, it's like, each of these signs, Taurus, Aries, Scorpio, Virgo, Aquarius, these are all different ways of being in the world. So that you could say they're different archetypal ways of being. If you're a Virgo, you're meant to experience life and live life in a Virgo way. And so there are certain archetypes that go with Virgo. There are different archetypes that go with Scorpio, and yet again, different ones that go with Aquarius. So um, identifying with your animal, like all the signs are either usually a person or an animal, like the ram or the twins or the centaur, right? Helps you experience yourself on a non-personal level. Like you're having a very personal experience of being a ram or a bull or a twin, right? So there are many, many other rams and bulls and twins in the world, but you're having your own personal experience, and yet it shares elements with all the other rams or bulls or twins out there. So yeah, astrology helps you sort of tap into this universal sense of having a place within that big universal tapestry.
Yeah. That's fascinating. And I'm thinking also of archetypes are, running through the planets also, because all of the planets carry archetypal energy too, right?
Absolutely, because the planets have the same names as the gods and goddesses from
Yeah.
Roman mythology. So how did that happen? Hmm. Well, we can only speculate, but it's obvious to me that mythology was written specifically to illustrate the different archetypal energies that comprise each one of us. We all have Venus, the goddess of romance, inside of us. We all have Mars, the god of war, inside of us, and all the other characters in mythology who are named after those planets. And yeah, it helps you see that when you read the mythologies that, oh, this is how Mars operates. This is what Mars is all about. And you can see a part of yourself that operates that way. And then there's another layer to you. There's the Mercury layer. Oh, Mercury does this. Oh, I do things in that fashion sometimes. And so you see that you're comprised of multiple archetypes. And that's what's so fascinating about us being human, and it's shown in astrology how we're all a unique blend of 12 different planetary, or excuse me, 7 different planetary archetypes and 12 different zodiac archetypes, and everyone's got a different mixture, a different recipe for being in the world.
That's very cool. I
Yeah.
never I never really put that connection together, I guess, with the Roman gods and the planets and just
Yeah,
the archetypes in general with it.
it's no accident that they have the same names as the planets. That cannot be a coincidence. And if you speak Spanish or French, you know that the days of the week are also
Yeah.
named after these same planets and or gods. Um,
Mhm.
Monday's child is fair of face. Moon day, Monday, right? Tuesday's child is full of grace. Well, Tuesday is Martes in Spanish, Mars Day, Mardi en français, Mars Day, Tuesday. It goes on. Wednesday, Saturn's Day.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
really cool.
I've learned a
Well,
lot from you too on how the planets actually impact our soul, like our inner longings, desires, and our reactions to things. Like right now when we're recording, we were saying how it's a Mercury retrograde and we all just feel wonky and cars are breaking down and cameras aren't working and, all the little disasters that just tick us off are happening all at once. And can you talk about that a little bit about like, are the planets causing events or are they symbolic mirrors of a deeper pattern? Because of how they make us, even the moon too, when the moon is in different phases or different distances from uh certain locations, it pulls on us. Can you talk into
yeah.
that?
Yeah. So it's obvious by anyone who's been to the beach or sailed on the ocean that the moon literally has a physical effect. The gravity of the moon is literally pulling us. So you can see cause and effect. With the planets, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto, we don't have the science, the subtle enough science to measure that. Although I feel like one day we will be able to establish a cause and effect. But even if we don't have that science today, there is a hermetic principle, and Hermes is how you say Mercury in Greek. Uh, the hermetic principle of correspondence. As above, so below. So
Mhm.
it's like the planets are they causing cars to break down? Maybe, maybe not. But we definitely know that when Mercury goes retrograde, more cars break down. Not every car will break down, but some will, right? Not every flight will get canceled, but many more will during Mercury retrograde than not. So like I said, the law of correspondence, and that's, I believe, the key to understanding astrology, whether the planets make you the way you are, or whether they're simply there to show you the way you were meant to be, and it's no accident that you are
Mhm.
the way you are.
Well, I've heard you talk in our last episode about natal charts, and I was just for all of our listeners who are, catching up to that or catching up, this might be the first time they've ever heard you, Johnny. And I just want you to kind of reiterate what a natal chart is and how that is like a placement, like kind of just like what you're just saying about how you're a mixture of all the planets and the moon has its gravity effect and so does the planets. And maybe how does that align with a natal chart? Like, what is that?
Yeah. So basically, the natal chart is a snapshot of the sky or of the solar system at the moment you were born from the location in which you were born, right? Time and space,
Mhm.
right? And so there's no one exactly like you in terms of being born at the exact time and the exact space. Even twins come out a minute or two apart from each other. So the snapshot, the chart, you're basically seeing a circle, and the top half of the circle is the sky above you, and there might be planets up there that you can't see at the moment. The sun may be up there if you're born during the day. The moon might be up there. And then the bottom half of the circle is the sky below you, which you cannot see because the middle of the chart is the horizon. And so you might have planets down below that you can't see. Most of us have some both above and below the horizon. And so that snapshot, that picture of the sky, um, tells you, if you're an astrologer, it tells you all kinds of information about this person. What's their
Mm,
emotional temperament? What are their physical needs? What are their creative style all about? How's their mental aptitude? Destiny, purpose. It's like your whole, and the timing of events in your life is encapsulated in that very first snapshot. That's like the whole script is set into stone, if you will, the moment you were born. It's just amazing when you start to look at it the way I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
awesome. I mean, you were describing that to me and Annelise a couple months ago, and you did a natal chart for me and her, but for me, and you were telling me just all the things that have actually happened in my life, and things that are even, you know, I'm starting to see that happen in my life as well. And that's like you were saying, it's not like a prediction or fortune telling or whatever. It's just it's my natal chart. It's like what was set, from the time I was born in the sky, right? Like as above, so below, like you were saying.
Right. And if you're religious, you would say that God made you a certain way.
mhm.
And the birth chart is basically the blueprint of your life. It's like
Right.
if you want to know, what you're supposed to be when you grow up, take a look at the chart. It can guide you into some very.
Yeah.
I just had a breakthrough realization of my own, and I've been studying astrology for, as you said, over 30 years, and I just realized something about myself by looking at my chart. It's like, oh, why did I not think of that before? Of course, I should be applying this sort of modality when I'm doing this sort of activity in my life. It fits, it feels right. It's not like, oh, that's rubbing me the wrong way. I don't really want to be that way when I'm doing this. No, it felt like, oh, of course. So it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
forcing you to be something you're not meant to be. It's rather guiding you into
Yeah.
that path that was laid out for you the moment you were born.
It's really sad that so many people do not use this. I know, if I had known about this years earlier, I could have saved myself a lot of struggle and striving, trying to determine my life path, what I'm here to do. And I feel like if parents would utilize this more, it would
Mhm.
be super helpful for children to kind of find their way in the world. But my question is our life predetermined, though, when you think of it that way? Is it mapped out? Or do we have freedom to choose our destiny? I mean, are we bound by our chart? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, that is a great question, and I've thought a lot about that over the years. I've talked to several people about it, and I believe that most of your life is in fact mapped out. Um, it's just it's just uncanny how the correspondences between events in my life and the things happening in my chart at the same time. It just is. And I look back in the past years ago when I didn't even know anything about astrology, you know. I'll have
Yeah.
people, and then I'll have clients call me up. Like, wow, you told me I was going to meet someone in June, and by God, I'm engaged and moving to Colorado now. I was like, that happened.
Yeah.
That literally happened last month.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah, it's really wild. I do believe in free will as a human being and an American, a Westerner. Um, I believe in free will, but most people don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I
uh,
think free will is a contradiction in terms. There's freedom and there's will, but there's no such thing as free will because the will is conditioned. And that's what we see in our charts, right? It's the karma, it's the conditioning. And it's kind of, I think, there's freedom, but only to a certain point. We are bound by the blueprint of
I
our soul. So it's kind of a
I
both
think
and maybe.
I think you're right, and I think we're free to run away from our destiny. Look at Star Wars when
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker meets Ben Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he says, "You got to come with me to Alderaan and save Princess Leia." He's like, "Oh no, I can't do that. I've got the farm to take care of. I got chores to do." And so he tried to run away from his destiny, and yet when he ran, he saw that his farm was destroyed, his aunt and uncle were dead. It's like, you can't run away from your destiny. You can try. You have that free will to attempt it, but sooner or later it's going to catch up to you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes you suffer.
Two things are coming to mind. One is, yes, you did my natal chart last year, and you had told me about that time I was kind of entering into like a funk. I mean, not just a funk, like the biggest funk. And I was struggling, and you said, yeah, you're going to be feeling like this until maybe like April, May, maybe June. And I was like devastated. And you you said, no, but it's okay because there's an end in sight. Like, it's going to be really, really bad until then. But then you said you'll never feel that way again. This is the only time in your lifetime that the planets cross over your chart in this way. So this is like the worst of it. And then it's up. And so that helped me cling to that very long season, which has recently lifted, just like you said. Like, the planetary pressures came off, and I had all these inner transformations, just like you said. And I don't think you were telling me the future. I think obviously you were looking at my chart, and it shows like where my life is going to expand and have challenges. And it's all for purpose, though, is what gave me a lot of comfort. And it's not forever, and it can't be forever when you go through hard times, you said, because the planets keep moving. But the other thing that comes to mind is, Brandy, you mentioned doing natal charts for children, like if you're a parent. And Johnny, you just briefly looked into our kids' natal charts. And Brandy, you did a little more digging too. And what came back told us about our younger son, who has a pretty significant speech, some pretty significant speech issues at the moment that he works through. And a lot of emotions, big emotions. And his chart came back and it said, like, because of where he's positioned in the planets and all that, his main, I guess, hurdle or challenge in this life is going to be communication. It's going to be overcoming an inability to express his amazing thoughts. And that gave me so much comfort to see there's nothing wrong with my child. This is how God made him. His challenge this lifetime is to overcome communication barriers and express his amazing mind. And that's not an accident, and that's not a defect. That's how he was made. And look, even the stars say so. And then you had said too that he would be kind of fiery and have this like anger outburst, sometimes have an attitude. At the time, he didn't, because he was like 3. Now, oh my gosh, we look at him, we're like, the stars told us he would be this way. And look, he's like, he'll do this, go, get real mad at people, and express his anger that way. And all that to say, just this, I'm seeing how his star chart is unfolding as he unfolds. And it's just miraculous, but also very comforting that even his challenges, everyone's challenges, are literally written in the stars.
Yeah. Yeah. We all have something to overcome, and some have seemingly more difficult issues than others. But we don't know why. We would say karmically, or you could say there was a soul contract, or maybe this soul decided it needed to learn these issues. We don't know. We speculate, but that's what most people want to believe, is that there is purpose and reason. It's not random. You're not being punished. Everyone's got a different road to hoe, so to speak, in this lifetime. And that's a much more empowering way to live your life than say, "Oh, God hates me. He made me this way." You can feel that way if you want, but it ain't going to help you.
Right. Or to think that the struggle is just random chaos, and has no purpose in it. When you see that it's literally baked into your chart, even though it's awful maybe to navigate it, there's a sense of purpose in it. And so you go through it differently, like you said, in a more empowered way. And I think that's important. I think that's how people drop into despair and lose hope in this world. They see no purpose in the pain, and life is full of pain, and more so for some people than others. And so, yeah, I think astrology is probably one of the most helpful tools for people to navigate life in general, but especially if you're doing any kind of like inner work or shadow work, or if you're into anything like that. So I guess that would be my next question. How might someone use astrology to do their shadow work and to find more inner peace?
Yeah. So, um, in terms of your child, Annelise, you see those challenges in the chart, and you realize that that's going to be a main issue. And other people see other things in their chart, and they say, "Oh, I've got this issue, and she's got this other issue." You use the chart to identify those challenges, which and some of them are more karmically um, conditioned than others. But either way, whether you believe in karma or not, you see the challenges in the chart. And it's like, this is the hand you were dealt. You've got these cards to play with. And so you just basically decide you're going to get on with it and accept
Mhm.
that these challenges aren't going to go away. And at that point, you flip the script and now you're like, okay, what can I do about it? How can I creatively come up with a way to address this issue? Let me try this. Let me try that. Let me read a book. Let me attend a workshop. Let me get a reading. Let me talk to my friends and get feedback. There's multiple ways you can be creative about dealing with the issues in life. And so, yeah, it could be an invitation to go deeper. That's if nothing else, this world needs, our culture at least, desperately needs people to go deeper into their own
Mhm.
stuff. And
Yeah, yeah.
astrology is a great entree into that world.
I totally agree. Johnny, when you're talking about karma, for our listeners, what would you describe as karma? Like, what's your definition of karma?
Well, you have to reap what you sow, right? So um, if you plant if you plant thorn bushes, you're going to get thorns, right? If you plant wildflowers, you're going to get wildflowers. If you plant acorns, you're going to get an oak tree. So it's basically whatever energy you're putting into the world is going to eventually come back at you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with this, is karma also everything you've accumulated from past lifetimes, whether people believe in that or not? I mean, it sticks with you, right?
It seems to, like I said, we
Yeah.
don't have any definitive person who's aware, but this is the wisdom that's been handed down, especially through India, through the Indian Hindu tradition, and it does seem to make sense because sometimes bad things happen to you that you don't feel like you deserved. It's like,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
did that come? And sometimes good things happen to you too that you don't feel like you did anything to earn. So we have to remember there's good karma as well as
Yeah.
bad karma, not just all damn. Sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
wow, great, fantastic.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
I love those seasons when you can look around and be like, I must have done some good things lately because these are a lot of blessings. Not not that it always works that perfectly, but I know
Right.
what you mean.
Well, you look at The Sound of Music, and it's a terrible sentiment, but she sings that song. Somewhere in my wicked childhood, I must have done something good.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Saturn because Saturn is often described as the devil or the lord of karma. And I'm actually reading a book right now. It's called, oh, well, here it is. It's called Saturn. Let me see. Can you see it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Annulus is an old devil.
Yeah. 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 So, yeah, maybe tell us, how can we understand and work with Saturn energy? Like, what is it really trying to accomplish in our lives?
Yeah, that's a great question because Saturn gets a bad rap
Yeah.
from younger people, especially in the 60s and 70s, when because Saturn represents limitation. and karma and constriction, and you want to be a free child, a hippie child, and do whatever you want to do. Yeah, that's great. But Saturn helps you reel it in and focus and get solid. And if you want to, like, do you want to have a family? Well, you got to show up every day for those kids, right? You can't just decide, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, no, Saturn makes you show up every day. And some days you get tired of it and you push through. And in pushing through the resistance, right, you gain strength and you become strong and you become solid and you become dependable. And that's what Saturn's goal is, to make you someone with substance.
I love that. That's actually exactly what you told me back in October when you said, buckle up, it's going to be bad. You said it's Saturn. It's all this Saturn in your chart. And it's bad. You said, I hope you're praying and meditating and all the things. You knew, but I'd say it did just that. Like it was a time of like refining and having to face things I don't want to face. But if I do, I can become a more whole person.
Right. The word refinement, I mean, that's simply it. You've been put through the fire. You have been
Yeah.
refined, and it's not easy. I mean, when
Right.
you refine metal, you have to melt it all the way down and reshape it and reform it. And then sometimes
It's
if you're
pain.
blacksmith, you pound it with a hammer, bam, 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 to get it into the shape you want. It's like, but when
Yes.
it's done, it's like, wow, I've got this beautiful tool or this beautiful sword or this beautiful rifle barrel or this whatever you're making out of steel, um,
So
is
like
beautiful.
every one of these planets is really working for our highest good in their impact on us, even when it's challenging, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, Saturn is only a problem for children, meaning an adult who refuses to grow up and mature, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna
Yeah.
happen. It's gonna happen.
Johnny, have you ever heard of this is a like little right turn here, but have you ever heard of a cult practice called Saturnella?
Saturnalia,
Yeah, maybe that's maybe that.
where Saturn takes a holiday and you get to be debaucherous. Yeah, it's like
Yes.
carnival.
Yeah.
Carnival is the same idea. It's just a different time of year, but Saturnalia was like everyone who's like um a priest or a nobleman is everyone's brought down to the same level, and it's
Yeah.
just it's crazy. But yeah, people did that stuff back in the day, and they still do it today in Brazil and in other places, right?
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of just occult groups, like you're saying in different countries, but there's like, people in America that occult wise that still practice all that, just in a debauchery form, like you're saying.
Yeah, it's tied into Catholicism because Catholicism is pure Saturn.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
heavy hand of Saturn. We have rules, we have regulations, we have things you must do, and you have to listen to the priests who tell you what to do.
That's
And
right.
so you have this complete boomerang effect. It's called Mardi Gras in February, right? Because the day after Mardi Gras is Ash Wednesday and the start of Lent, when you have to deprive yourself of things for 40 days. It's like, so we're going to blow it out before we have to do all this Saturn stuff. It's like, you ever heard that saying moderation is the key?
Yeah.
Yep.
Not if you're
Yeah.
Catholic, not if you're a Christian. It's like you got these
Yeah.
extremes. It's like, I'm going to pretend I'm not a Catholic Christian now for 24 hours because I'm going to be a really good Catholic Christian for the next 40 days.
Yeah. During my time in the Episcopal Church on Fat Tuesday, they served pancakes and mimosas at the church to get ready. Yeah. For Ash Wednesday.
Mimosas.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
What I know there are different um styles or types of astrology. I've heard of Vedic. Can you speak into what kind you utilize or what types there are and how they're different?
Yeah, Vedic is really good if you want someone to predict every detail of your life. It
Okay.
is extremely accurate. I personally don't want to know.
Yeah.
I want to live my life in a state of expectancy. But if you don't
Yeah.
feel that way, go get a Vedic reading. They'll tell you exactly how many kids you're going to have and when you'll die,
Wow.
what you'll die of, when you'll
Oh,
gain a
wow.
job, when you lose a job. So, Western astrology is what I practice, and it was very used for prediction for many centuries. But like I said, when Dane Rudger, this fellow who was born over 120 years ago, when Dane Rudger came along and moved astrology into the field of individuation and self-realization, um, that's the style that I embrace. And
Okay.
so I'm very similar to any typical Western astrologer in that way. The one unique difference about the way I practice is that I realized about 15 years ago that the 7 chakras in the body are
Mhm.
corresponding to these 7 visible planets. And when we say planets, we're talking Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. The same 7 that have the days of the week named after them. So it sounds Vedic what I do, but it's not. It's very Western, but chakra is a Vedic word, but chakras are universal. They occur in every
Mhm.
body. And so I do use a few Vedic pearls of wisdom. I blend some of that wisdom into my chart readings, but I'm a Western astrologer. And if I think you're going to die on a certain day, I'm not going to say, I think you're going to die. I'm going to say, there's some challenges coming up, very difficult. You want to take care of yourself because I don't know. Even Yoda in Star Wars says very difficult to see is the future, always in motion,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know everything. Astrologers do not know everything. I know a lot. I think I know a bunch, but I do not know everything. And I would never tell someone you're going to die on a certain day.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I guess that was going to be kind of my next question. If the future is fluid, and I believe that it is, then how can you predict with accuracy certain things like a person's death date? I wonder if it's one of those things where if it's in the near future, it's easier to predict than if it's in like the long-term future, because the near future, there's kind of a momentum already, things are in motion in that direction. So those things would be easier to predict or less likely to change.
Yeah.
But the faraway future, yeah,
Because there's so say you're on a river, you're flowing down that river, and you can see what's right up ahead of you.
yeah,
But if you're on the Mississippi River and you're in Iowa, you don't see
yeah,
anything happening in Mississippi or Louisiana. There's no
right.
telling what's coming up. But yeah, looking a
Yeah.
little bit ahead might be easier. But yeah, I don't. When I do readings, I do look at what's coming up, but I don't do it to predict specifics. What I do is to predict the condition of the river in which you're floating. There will
Mhm.
be some rapids coming up by the time you get to Illinois, right? And then it's
Mhm.
going to smooth out when you hit Missouri, but then it's going to get a little twisty when you get to Mississippi. I will give you the flavor of the experience, but I'm going to leave it to you to fill in the meaning. And that's really an important thing to understand. Every individual gives their own meaning to the experiences that they're having. I can't tell you meaning. I can tell you purpose. I can tell you what you're made to do, but the meaning that you derive from that experience is yours to decide.
Hmm.
Also, our choices would impact things. And if we thought we were locked in to a certain prediction, we may not choose in a way. Our freedom may be kind of impacted. Our free will maybe would be diminished if we knew
Yeah.
too
Oh,
much.
absolutely. I don't know if I've probably told you the story about when I first started dating the woman who I eventually married. And I had uh, I had become an astrologer maybe 10 years before, but 20 years before, I had met a woman and fallen in love. And she was a Cancer. And, you know, it was good for a while. Then it was bad. And we broke up. And it's like, well, I'll never date a Cancer again. Right. And it's like, whatever. I was not an astrologer at that point. But, you know, anyway. So 10 years pass. I meet this woman. And on our first date, I say, listen, I'm an astrologer, and if you tell me your birthday, I'm going to prejudge and everything. I'm going to categorize you in my head. I don't want to do that. I want to get to know you without that influence, you know. And after like 3 weeks, it was obvious we were meant for each other. And so I finally said, okay, so what's your sign? Well, what do you think her sign was?
A Cancer.
Cancer, of course, right? If I had known that at the first date, how do you think that would have influenced my behavior and my thoughts and my feelings?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It would have screwed the whole thing up.
Right. Yeah, we can know too much. I know I recently asked you, and we never did get a chance to connect and talk about it, but horary astrology, that's something that I was hearing someone speak about. I think it was in a podcast. And she was saying that it's used to predict or, predict things, but mainly like to find lost items, things like that. And it can be used for accurate predictions also. Could you speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, it's like any question you want to ask.
Okay.
Where did I lose my keys, for
Yeah.
example? Um, but it's also can be used like when the ceasefire was signed between the US and Iran a couple weeks ago, you can cast a chart for that moment,
Mm.
and then you apply the principles of horary, and you look at whether you think that ceasefire will last or not, right?
Huh.
So you can do it with a question, like I said, where where are my keys? Where should I look to find a job? You know, I haven't tried any of these myself. I have a friend that is on Facebook that posts a lot of horary uh, quizzes and questions, like where are the lost keys? And he'll ask everyone in the group to like give their reasoning, their astrological reasoning on why they think the keys are here or there or wherever they are. And so I glean a little bit from that, but that's definitely not my area of expertise. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's really fun to
Yeah.
read this. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm interested, but it also seems, I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of different opinions on it. Like you were saying, you can post the chart or whatever, and be like, "Where are the keys?" And you have all these different opinions from different people who are reading the same chart. So it kind of depends on how you interpret the information, right?
well, I think a well-experienced horary astrologer will get the answer. Each of them will get the answer correct. These
Okay.
are he's posting this to astrologers, and some or
Uh,
many are not, like me, are not experienced in horary. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Johnny,
Fascinating.
I know that you have been excited about kind of a new area of study that you're into right now with the solar return chart and the Venus return chart. Um, can you tell us about that? And also, does that have anything to do with like the Great Solar Flash type of language, or is that something unrelated?
Oh, I haven't heard. What is the solar flash?
That'd be more of a you explaining, but
It's just basically, I guess the theory is that as like the timelines collapse down into this current timeline, there'll be a transition from 3D to 5D, and within that transition is the great solar flash, practically where the sun like will expand out and give off a super flash. It's supposed to, like I said,
upgrade
yeah, upgrade
everybody's
everything and
consciousness.
just
Okay.
bring the Earth up into a 5D state.
Yeah,
Some
I
people
had heard
think
that.
that that is a thing, like a second return. The return of Christ is tied into that too.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, the solar return chart's completely different from that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, so you're born with your birth chart, and this is the way you are, and this is what you're here to do, and strengths and weaknesses, and that's in effect for your entire life. Now, on your birthday, you have the sun returns to the same spot it was in the sky, in the
Mhm.
zodiac, on the day you were born. And so at that precise moment, when it's exactly right, that exact spot, you have like you get zapped like a solar flash, I guess, with a new burst of solar energy, and that that moment has its own chart. And so it's like an overlay on top of your birth chart that only lasts for 1 year.
Mm.
And so you can look and see some things that will be going on in your year coming up. Now, you can see some things in your birth chart, right, that are coming up in this year, but the solar return chart is just an added layer of events and or information for you to play with. Yeah,
That's cool.
Oh.
That is really cool.
yeah.
So
And
more of
so
a like specific this year type of
yeah,
snapshot.
specific just to this year. Now, I've been experimenting and studying the same effect with the planet Venus, because Venus is all about romance and creativity, and so I'm thinking to myself, well, why wouldn't it be the same for Venus or Mars or Jupiter or any other planet, right? And Venus is pretty easy to track because it happens every year, right? Saturn's every 29 years, Jupiter every 12 years. It's kind of abstract, but but valid. But yeah, Venus is like you can see stuff happening like every month, and
Yeah.
so I've been tracking that um, now for a couple of years and looking back over the last 25 years of my life how um, to see how things have played out, and it matches that chart. And so the what when I say it matches that chart, it's like some charts are more challenging than others, right? And the challenging charts have corresponded with challenging years that I had with that cancer woman I told you that I married, right? And the and the more positively aligned Venus return charts also correspond with the more positively experienced years I had with that cancer woman, right? So it's really amazing how that plays out. And so what I've started doing now, just in the last year, is consulting clients and telling them where to go on their birthday or on their Venus day in order to maximize the benefits of this chart. Because as you move east or west or north or south on the planet, it changes the sky above you. And so you can line up different planets in different positions. You can line up the same planets in different positions in your chart for that year, if you prefer that solar return year or that Venus year. And you can kind of play you can kind of program the matrix is basically what you're
Yeah.
doing when
Yeah,
yeah,
you back engineered astrology.
I did.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did.
That is so cool. That is so
Yeah.
cool.
It's kind of funny when Johnny first started offering these. He said he had taken a look at my chart. He gave me a call. He's like, I took a look at your chart, and it would be remiss of me not to mention maybe you should get out of town. And I mean, the planets are like really kicking my ass this year, so I wasn't at all surprised to get that call. So it was pretty funny. I was like, that's it's bad when the astrologer calls and he's like, get out of town, you need to leave.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is funny.
Yeah.
yeah. And some years it's better to stay right where you are. So you don't have to travel every year, but it's good to know in advance. It's like, oh, I got a birthday coming up, and your Venus day is no one knows when their Venus day is unless they study the astrology software or have the ephemeris like I do. But your Venus day there's basically 8 days spread out over a 5-month period that it will happen each year. It will happen every 8 years. It will happen at one of those 8 places, and it comes
Okay.
back around to. It could be like for me, I have one in May, then I have one in June, I have one in August, and I have one in July, and so it just depends on because Venus doesn't circle around the same speed as the sun does. So yeah, call me up and I can tell you when your Venus birthday is, if you like, when your Venus day is, and we can do a chart and show you what you can look for. It's amazing. If you want to improve your love life or even your creative life, because Venus rules creativity as well. And the most amazing thing I did, talk about looking back at the past, I took a look at John Lennon's Venus return chart for the year he met Paul McCartney.
Oh,
And for you kids who don't know, that was the greatest musical songwriting partnership in the history of the world, called the Beatles. Anyway, sure enough, looking at the chart that I cast for that year for John Lennon, Venus moves through the chart, and once it crossed the ascendant, that's when it gets activated. And then 6 days after it crossed the ascendant, it met the planet Uranus, which is revolution and breakthrough. And that was the day John Lennon met Paul McCartney.
wow.
That's so neat.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Written in the
Yeah.
stars.
Yeah.
It is
Literally.
written. It's written.
That
Yeah.
gives me a lot of comfort, really, because, you know, when you grow up in church, you're told, obviously, don't look into astrology, evil. But then they tell you the wise men helped us all find Jesus. So it's very contradictory. And, you know, now I've come to understand it's a tool to help with your development. It's a tool to help with your journey. If you don't want to look at it, that's fine. You'll just have a harder journey and not understand it quite as well. And if you do look at it, you'll really have a lot of tools in your toolkit and more understanding for your journey. But then at the same time, you don't need to look at it so much that you're trying to predict your every moment. Like there is that quote, just trust God part of life, like just ride the wave. But to kind of know where your waves are going is pretty helpful.
Yeah, that's a great point, because a watched pot never boils.
Mm.
And so if you know this big day's coming up, nothing might happen,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes, and this is true for in my experience, because I should be able to predict every single day of my life, right? But some days and some weeks will go by that I haven't taken the time to look in my book or go through my astrology software and see what's going on, and things will catch me off guard. And sometimes it's wonderful,
Right.
and sometimes it's like, I wish I'd known that was making facing those challenges in that day. So it's
Yeah.
really it's up to you to decide how much you want to know about the day to day to day. But yeah, sometimes it's better to just let things unfold, because, as I don't know who said it, but all roads lead to Rome, which is
Mm.
to say, whether you get off track or whether you're on the straight and narrow, you're going to wind up at the same destination one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of grace.
I think it's
But,
pretty
but
silly
I like,
myself.
what's that?
I think it's pretty silly myself that like people can sit there and say like astrology is so evil when when God put the stars in the sky. It's just like, how are you gonna sit there and say that when
Right.
God Almighty himself put the stars in the sky in the way that they are?
Right. Well, and I think we talked about this in another episode, but when you look at the 3 wise men, who of course were astrologers, they call them the wise men because the church doesn't allow you to believe in astrology. So
Yeah, right.
it was the magi originally Then it was the three kings. Well, kings are majestic, right? And then they were wise men. It's like they're astrologers. They're following
Yeah.
a star. And if you're a Christian and you believe in the Bible story of the wise men, you have to believe in astrology because
Yeah.
those three guys were the only three guys that knew anything was up.
That's
Okay,
right.
Mary
Yeah.
and Joseph knew. Mary and Joseph and the three wise men were the only people who knew something was up. How
Yeah.
did they know? Well, they were astrologers. That's how they knew. So if you're a Christian,
Yeah.
you have to believe in astrology. And if you're an astrologer, you know that it proves Christianity. It proves the validity of Jesus.
That's
Mhm.
right. Yeah.
Hmm.
If it wasn't for
Yeah.
the wise men, maybe nobody would have even heard the story of this Jesus, truly. I mean, who would have known? This kid born in a barn, who would have known?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like with any tool, it can be misused. It's,
Right.
it can rob us of our journey. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're consulting the stars every day for every single decision, you're in bad shape.
Yeah.
You're better off letting things unfold naturally. Not asking on that first date, "What's your sign?" is an example of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
That's wild. I mentioned this, I think, the last time we had you on, but even just looking at our birth charts, Parker's and mine, you were able to tell me like the supposed sign of who I would marry based on my birth chart and him, and it actually was our signs, and that's just so wild that's how specific. Like you're so on purpose that it's designed down to your core and it says so in the stars. Every little piece of your story. I just think
It's a
that's really a testament to the divine.
Yeah, exactly. It is a testament to the divine. It does not negate God. It doesn't not have to negate your religious beliefs. It supports them. On the contrary,
Mhm.
it shows that there is
Yeah.
divine purpose. And whether you believe in the God of the Bible or not, you can see divine order and divine purpose. Or if you want to use the word cosmic instead of the word divine, either way, there is a plan that
Yeah.
is unfolding, and you can see it clearly, clear as day.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
very true. No matter what God you're talking about, it's still just, it's in the sky. It's, God, put it there.
Exactly, exactly. Guess what sign of the woman is I'm supposed to marry?
It's Cancer.
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 Oh,
How
that's
do you
wild.
determine that? What are you
But
looking at to see which sign you're
okay,
supposed to marry?
yeah. In a man's chart, Venus shows the sign of the woman he will marry.
Hmm.
In a woman's chart, Mars shows the sign of the man she will marry. Now,
Okay.
this is medieval astrology, and it's not true 100% of the time, but it's true a lot of the time. Uh, and then the other element, and I get this from the Vedic tradition from India. India says that Jupiter in a woman's chart represents her king.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
I have seen and experienced women more attracted to a man's Jupiter than to his Mars. So I think women get a two shots at this.
That's interesting. I saw a meme, and of course, memes are overly simplified. So I don't know, but it said, you should never marry your seventh house sign. Like that's that's the person you'll have the most difficulty with.
Well,
Have you
I
never heard
will,
that?
the seventh house is the house of marriage.
Right. And it said that if you marry the person or the sign that is of your seventh house, that'll be the most difficult relationship.
Yeah, well, so this is a deeper level of astrology that I like to think I have the benefit over a meme. Um,
Sure.
The
Yeah.
seventh house is the house of projection because the
Mm,
first house is the house of self. And so the seventh is opposite that one. And so whatever you don't own about yourself, you project onto the
Yeah.
other. That's why when we fall in love at the very beginning, it's like, wow, they're so different from me. I love that. And then it's like a couple of months or half a year later, it's like, wow, they're so different from me. I hate that.
Well, that would make sense then. What you're saying is kind of, corroborating what that meme said, but it's explaining the shadow behind it.
Context is
Yeah.
everything. And with a meme, there is no context. Therefore, there's no meaning. It's
Right.
you get meaning instead of meaning, right? That's the
I love it.
problem with the world. There's everything's a soundbite. There's no possibility for context because I've only got 8 seconds to hold your attention. Sorry, you're just gonna have to make do.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's why my chakra class lasts 2 hours because I want to make sure you grok it. I want to make sure, and the word grok has context. Do you know where the word grok comes from? Do you know what that means?
No.
Well, everyone in the 60s and 70s read Stranger in a Strange Land about an alien from Mars who wound up on Earth, and that was a Martian word, grok, that didn't translate exactly, but it's like to really understand something is to grok it, right? But people throw that word around these days. They don't have the context.
That's very interesting to know because I mean, I like to use Grok AI, so that's pretty cool.
I'm going to kill myself now, Parker.
Oh.
Oh, mercy. Yeah. Yeah, look for context before you even begin to derive meaning.
Yeah. That's
There's
sage
no
advice.
yeah, there's no context with AI, there's no context with memes, there's no context. It takes time. I mean, if it's not worth spending the time on, then it's not valuable.
Yeah. I love that.
Figuring out your life is worth spending a little time, or a lot.
Totally. Yeah. Well, as we wrap up this episode, maybe share any closing thoughts that you might have, and tell our listeners where they can find you and what you're working on, what you have going on right now.
Yeah, well, if you want to talk about you and your life and get some answers to why things are the way they are, if they're challenging, um, basically almost every area of life, health, work, relationship, children, family, career, um, karma, destiny, purpose, questions large and small. Astrology is just wonderful for answering those and giving you not not like every single answer like in the predictive way, but giving you a sense of peace of mind, right? It's like, oh right, there is a cosmic purpose that's unfolding. That's my job, and the other main thing is to validate what you already know to be true about yourself, but no one else is supporting you in that role. Parents, bosses, even friends. You may not be you may not be getting the support you need to become the engineer or the artist or the brain surgeon or the astronaut or the housewife that you are meant to be. It does. We don't all have to be glamorous. There's a great line from The Natural, that baseball movie with Robert Redford, and the manager keeps saying, I should have been a farmer. It's like, right now, being a farmer sounds great to me. I think I'd really enjoy getting out of the rat race. So
Yeah.
if sometimes the astrologer says you need to be a farmer, and that's okay. Uh, but yeah, that's the benefit of astrology, just having someone guide you into becoming the person you were made to be. Yeah. So I'm happy to do
That's
that.
beautiful.
If you can't see me, see an astrologer, see a good astrologer. Of course, being an older person, I would recommend an older astrologer, but there are some young people who know a few things. But I just think back to Saturn again. The voice of experience says go with someone who's been around the block a few times. So you can catch me on Instagram, on Facebook, and on my website at Chakraology. It's chakraology.org on the website. The Instagram page is Chakraology. Facebook is, Facebook/Chakraology. And drop me an email, info@Chakraology. And yeah, happy to talk and give you a reading if that's what you like. Don't have any plans for touring right now, but who knows, that might come back up again soon. But I do have a YouTube channel. It's called Chakraology. And so, yeah,
Okay.
I'm not very active, especially lately. Been focusing on fixing my son's truck for a long time. But yeah, there's some content from the past, and I think some good stuff. There's good stuff on the three wise men, and there's some stuff on Pythagoras and music and Fibonacci and
hmm
sacred geometry. I got it's all tied into astrology. So you can do so much with
Very
astrology.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll drop all of those links in the show notes for anyone who wants to connect with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Brandy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Johnny. This has been a wonderful
Yeah.
thank you.
conversation. I really appreciate you being with us today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been so much fun. Glad to see all y'all again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you all for transcending this rabbit hole with us. As always, cosmic blessings and peace.
Do you ever grow discouraged by the weight of this world? Does Big Brother get you down with all the lies that he's told? Does the gloom and doom of nightly news haunt your dreams? So you scroll instead of sleep, 'cause distraction is key. But as long as there is still a sun up in the sky, I can choose to live on the sunny side. It's somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. I was sleeping just fine peacefully inside my American dream, awoken when those puppet strings were cut right off. The evidence you can't ignore, sheriff call you misinformed. I know the truth, but trying not to lose my mind. I'm somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. It takes a worried man to sing a worried song, and the state of humankind had me humming alone. Hello, common sense, I'm convinced we've lost our way, sold our attention to the system. Now there's power to reclaim, but as long as there's a heart beating in my chest, I will cling to hope that's true. I will cast out the rest. There's no price on peace of mind, knowing you won't find it here. It's that perfect love above calling you near. I was sleeping just fine peacefully inside my American dream, awoken when those puppet strings were cut right off. The evidence you can't ignore, sheriff call you misinformed. I know the truth, but trying not to lose my mind. I'm somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side